Hey, yo, welcome back to the Boston Sports Brothers podcast, fully loaded show this evening of bros and a very special guest. It's Mike Kadlick of Sports Illustrated and CLNS Media joining us. We're going to be breaking down the draft with Mike in just a little bit, but we have to start with the Red Sox and everything that transpired over the weekend. It's been a wild 48 hours. Late Saturday night, after perhaps their best win of the season, news breaks that Alex Cora and 5 other folks are fired on the Red Sox. So much to dig into here, so much to talk about. Sammy K, we're going to hand it to you to set the table here on the Sox. We'll get everybody's takes, but take it away, my friend.
All right, so Big E, the Fenway 5 is officially back on. I don't know what the fuck is going on with this team. Like, they get swept by the Yankees. Like, their plan just consistently, like, year in and year out, just hasn't worked, and they just continually use the scapegoat that is the coaching staff or the GM, and it's just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I don't understand. Like, we're gonna get rid of every single coach except for like the first base coach and like the pitching coach, and it's like, well, can't get rid of the pitching coach because Craig Breslow was a pitcher, and it's just, you start to hear about all those things again, like with that one guy that called him a fucking stiff and then got fired, and it's like, the guy's a fucking stiff. I mean, we've gone through this, and it starts. It's not even Breslow, because Breslow is just he's just an AI bot that just follows an algorithm. He's a puppet. He just follows the fucking algorithm, just like ChatGPT, and he just goes with it, and he doesn't stray from it. He doesn't deviate from that path. But this franchise, it's a huge market franchise. We're talking like in the top tiers of LA, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Phillies, teams of that nature. And we've gone through what, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 different GMs, starting from Theo to Jed Hoyer and Mike Hazen, Breslow, Sharrington, Dombrowski. Now we have Breslow. It's just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, there shouldn't be that much instability in the front office and a team that's this big. It's just, it's ridiculous. And for the longest time, I was, a homer of the Red Sox, and I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt that they were actually going to be able to do these things. And it's just like every single time they just drop the fucking hammer, whether it be on John Farrell or whether it's Tito Francona's fucking opiate addiction, which he didn't have. He's just had like 45 knee surgeries in his life, and the guy's on pain medication. Like, I'm going to grab your take, but really quick, good for Alex Cora to start the smear campaign before Fenway Group was able to do it, because this Fenway Group is just, they at this point, they really need to go. I don't know if they're going to go, but it's just like, it almost feels like New York Knicks and their previous owner. I don't want to get the name wrong. What was it? Wilpon?
James the Mets. Yeah. You're talking about the Mets and Wilpon.
It's almost like that kind of situation, and it's just like they gotta go. They gotta go.
Mike, jump in. I know you had some takes across social media this weekend about everything that happened.
Yeah, they gotta sell the team. I mean, I think it's that simple, and I don't think they ever will, because it's the Boston Red Sox and it's a big brand name. And one of my tweets that Josh is talking about was, I said people need to stop going to Fenway Park, and someone put in my mentions that, well, then all the other tourists will just go. Like, people still come to the park for it, and it sucks. I haven't been to Fenway in 3 years. Now, last year, when they traded Devers, I said my fandom was over, but then they made the playoffs, and I jumped back on the bandwagon. That's what it's like being a Boston sports fan. Just like Sammy, you said you're done. If they somehow turn it around and make the playoffs, you're going to watch too, right? That's just what it is. But I'm not calling you out. Yeah,
will I go? No.
Yeah, right. That's not to call you out specifically. That's just to say that that's the nature of being a sports fan. But wouldn't John Henry, he nickel and dimes everyone. The prices go up. The team still sucks. They don't reinvest in the team. He just wants to make as much money as possible. Wouldn't it be better? Wouldn't it be a better life quality as a multi-billionaire like him to have just a little bit less money and have your approval rating sky high and reinvest in the team and win championships and have fun, instead of making X more amount of dollars, but everybody hates your fucking guts? Like, I don't even understand the thought process behind it. And for Cora to be the scapegoat, it's incredibly unfortunate. I've been a fan of Cora since he was a player here. I can't find the damn shirt, but I had a Alex Cora jersey when I was like 13 years old when he was on the team. For some reason, I don't know why, all he was a utility infielder, but I loved the guy.
He
So
was good.
he was fun. And then they hired him as manager. I was fired up, and now it's over just like that. And it was never his fault. Now, for him to take what Breslow in the front office gave him and kind of just give him give him middle finger and play who he wanted to play, like there did need to be more synergy there. But at the end of the day, I think Cora's still right to just want to go win now. And he's going to go get a job somewhere else. And he's probably going to win a World Series, just like Dombrowski has done. Just like, we've seen other people. Chris Sale, for example, that's sort of a cost-cutting move, and he goes and he wins the Cy Young in his first season in Atlanta. So, look, I don't know what's next. Unfortunately, I really like Chad Tracy, too. But the fact that he became the manager this way sucks because now I just hate him because that's how it came to be, and it's not his fault. So, look, they need to sell the team. I don't think they ever will. And again, I wish less people would go to Fenway to try and hold their feet to the fire. But at the end of the day, there's still going to be the tourism. There's still going to be the lore of Fenway Park. John Henry's damn lucky because he gets to do that. But I hope he's miserable, and I hope he realizes that everybody hates him. And congratulations for the extra $1 million or $2 million to bring in a year.
And really quickly, boys, before I let you get into it, Mike, to your point, if you go ahead and spend that money, there's arguments that you'll make that money back with the fans that you're bringing in and everything. 100%. I mean, I saw
More
videos that
right.
They were selling what was it, either a White Claw or a High Noon for $20, and it's just like that is fucking absolutely wild. Like the amount that like you said, if you really want to hit them where it hurts, hit them in their pockets. And the other thing that just completely goes up my ass is that they never show face at the winter meetings and they never address the media. It always has to be someone else, and they just can't do it themselves
because they don't care.
Yeah, that's what it is. They just collecting a check.
Yeah, J-Matt, you said that they don't care. So your thoughts, and then we'll get Biggie and Gabe jumping in as well.
No, and I mean, Mike and Sam, you guys hit the only way to really make the change is to hit Henry in his wallet, because as of earlier in April, there's been reports that he's going to expand NESN into Pittsburgh for I don't know if you guys have heard this, but that's active news that the president of NESN has been talking about that they're going to expand to Pittsburgh for the Pirates and for the Penguins. So he's still expanding, making money, doing his thing. And the only way to hit him is in his wallet. And if we don't do that, nothing's going to change, unfortunately. So it's just going to be the Fenway Group for another 20-year run, which is unfortunate. So I just think that nothing's going to change, and he's still doing his thing. So it is what it is. We're in it for the long haul, guys, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Gabe?
I don't know. I can't say I was too surprised by Cora's firing. I know it was, big news, obviously, but there was always kind of rumbles the past couple of years about them letting go of Cora, and I just think he's not the right manager for where this team's at this point in time. They've got young guys like Anthony and Meyer, and these guys still need to be developed. As much as we want to think that Roman Anthony is like Bryce Harper already, he's not. He still has to develop into that type of player, and Cora I don't think he was interested in making that happen and being the leader and putting the time into those types of prospects. And I think Breslow really was banking on those prospects to be prosperous and bring this team a lot of wins, and it just isn't happening. So I think that's kind of where the disconnect was. I'm confused why Cora decided, well, I'm not confused. I know Cora took that 3-year extension. He just took it for the money. It's quite obvious at this point. And it's just, it's kind of another kick in the balls. Breslow really stuck his ass out there now by firing Cora, and that was his decision. If things continue to go south this season, I think Breslow could see the door too. So, I think Breslow, what saves him is he's a puppet for Henry and those guys in the front office or in the ownership group. So that's what makes it difficult for the Breslow situation is like, will they actually fire him, or do they like him because he's just doing every shitty fucking move that they want him to do? So that's kind of where I stand with this whole situation. Not too surprised, but it's also sad to see like Veritek go and, guys that we considered maybe potential coaching candidates for this team is now one of the fired coaches. So it's a weird time in Red Sox land.
Undoubtedly. Yeah, Biggie, bring us home.
It is a weird time. I'm going to start at the top and kind of work my way down and just kind of talk a little bit here. We all agree that selling the team is what we feel like is the best action here. But I want to take a little bit of a different approach. Like, yes, obviously we want John Henry to sell the team. We feel like that's the best action to go. What I really just want them to do is spend money on the team. I went back and I looked at the last couple of years. I went back to 2022 and forwards. So 2022, number 6 in the league overall in spending. In 2023, they were the 13th team. In 2024, 12th team. In 2025, they were the 10th team. And this year they have gone up to about the 6th or 7th team. But they're treating the Red Sox, which are a big market team, like a mid-market team, and they're risk adverse. They don't want to sign these big players. And really it comes down to, 2020 when they decided to move off of Mookie Betts. But this has been going on longer since, John Lester, where they always want to try and win the deal and they don't want to let a player get anything over them. It's also infuriating to me that they are willing to overextend themselves for players who have never played for this organization, but players who have bled, sweat, and tears for this organization are just disposable. So that to me is straight at the top. That's an ownership level thing. That's John Henry. That's Tom Werner. Those guys suck. Chaim Bloom, you are a puppet. You're kind of just there for the year.
Breslow.
Or sorry.
I mean,
Breslow
he was
a
too.
puppet.
He was a puppet too.
Bloom was
Yeah,
a puppet too.
He
weren't wrong.
was a puppet.
Just
Sorry,
wrong, dude.
wrong B. Breslow is a puppet as well, and he's going to be fired. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Kennedy gets fired at the end of this year too, because Henry's going to do everything and anything he can do to save face, and getting rid of anyone who's between him and the fans right now is going to be the easy move. From the Alex Cora standpoint, disappointing to see him get let go. I think he was promised a lot of things in the offseason, just like the fans were. Oh, we're going to make all these investments. We're going to get these big bats. And they came up empty. So all of his comments about teaching, like they basically have to teach players to play the outfield. Yeah, those were a little backhanded because I think they made promises to him that they didn't deliver on. Varitek absolutely just like lights a fire under my ass, because to me, there are like Johnny Pesky, who was a lifetime Red Sox, figure. You have Tim Wakefield, rest in peace, who was, a great figure here as well. And Varitek, who spent his entire career here and his entire post-playing career here as well. And you unceremoniously show him the door. Like, I just don't understand. Like, they have no perception of what the fans want and what they actually feel like is valuable. So Fenway 5 is back on. And last thing, from the players' perspective, I guess from their perspective, they aren't allowed to ask any questions. They're just there to play baseball, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that is annoying.
Robotic.
You got pretty much. I mean, you guys hit everything. My biggest frustration is the lack of accountability from the ownership group, and the fact that they haven't done an interview with the media in 6+ years, and these sort of decisions are coming from them. Just a lack of accountability. We talked extensively about selling the team, and many folks may have seen a video that was across social media this week where it sort of took off for us, where there's Yankees merchandise in the store, in the team store. And so the fact is, they're already one step ahead of us, capitalizing on those tourists and other people that are here. It's gross that they're doing that, but that's the thing. Even if the Red Sox fans don't hit them in the wallet, the revenue is still going to be there for them. And so it's just an ownership lack of accountability to me that really boggles my mind. The fact that, this team isn't going anywhere this year, I don't think, but heads should roll. Breslow should be out. Sam Kennedy should be out. But as some of you guys said, like, I don't know if that's going to happen, because those two guys take the bullets for ownership left and right, and pretty much are, at the end of the string for what they want to do. I don't know. It's crazy. Maybe we need the English fans from Liverpool to come over and be able to rally together, because they're pretty pissed off at Henry. I saw El Prez might come up and do a towel game with John Henry Clown Nose, which would be great. We'll happily be there for that. But like,
He needs to
the
buy
Red
the
Sox
team
are just
or
a
be a
bad
minority
state
owner.
of affairs, unfortunately. And this was shocking news to me. I did not see Cora going, but I'm happy that something happened to maybe wake this team up for this season. But I don't know. The soap opera of Boston sports this past week has been unbelievable in many ways. So before we transition, Sammy K, I'll hand it back to you to wrap anything up from a Red Sox standpoint.
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's where we stand. The only thing that the team can do really is just really win games and, get better every day, as they say. Although I did
or
find
lose
it
games and
or lose games
ensure
and
that Breslow and Kennedy get fired. So at this point, I'm
And
rooting
then
for
they're
that.
just going to bring in the same bot, and they're going to bring in the same coach, and they're going to do the
Yep.
same thing. It's over until they sell. I get it.
Yeah.
You know, they should lose because I don't want Breslow here either, but nothing's going to change, unfortunately, until Henry
But
gives up the keys,
Breslow
and that
already
ain't
said that it's going to be a rebuilding year, and we're not even like a quarter way through the
See,
year. And it's
that's
just
crazy. You can't
you
fire
know,
your
y-
coach and say that. Like that's one that's like what are the players gonna play for if your upper management is saying that? That's bullshit. And like two is like, Henry, why don't you come out and say something, you fucking coward? Like you have
It's-
Kennedy and fucking Breslow doing all your shit, but you stand behind them in your fucking box up behind home plate and just sitting there like you're an ass clown guy. Like, come on. And the thing that's also crazy too is that this firing has been the since World War I. This is the earliest firing of a Red Sox head coach. World War I, guys. That's insane.
You're gonna go back to the trench war.
Yeah,
That shows how incompetent that the front office is right there, is that we're going
Fucking
back
ass
hundreds of
clown.
years.
Wow, we're
Ass
going back
clown.
towards 1918. Jesus Christ.
The
Seriously.
fact that J Matt just pulled a stat that's over a century old to make that point is A plus there. So Red
I
Sox
don't
are a
even know
sad
what their
state of
logo
affairs,
was at that point.
but somehow they come out of Baltimore winning 2 out of 3. They're not necessarily out of it. You sort of look at their schedule and who they're playing, and the league kind of sucks, to be quite honest, overall. Like a lot of teams have losing records. A lot of teams are middled up here. So they could, in theory, still get back into it. It is very soon. More shoes to drop here as the season continues, but the Red Sox catapulting themselves into the top position on the show tonight with everything that transpired this weekend. Great takes, fellas. Let's keep it moving and grooving to the Patriots. That's why Mike is with us tonight. That's really where we were going to start this evening with everything that's gone on with the Patriots the past week. A lot to get into there, but let's start here. J-Matt, I'll hand it to you to
John
set the
Henry
table on
needs to
what
make
happened with the
himself
draft and
big.
transpired. Let's sort of just go day by day, round by round, if you will. So set the table with that, Mike. We'll get your thoughts. We don't have to break down every fucking player, but certainly the top few picks. And then we'll get into some Vrabel stuff as well. So J Matt, take it away.
Why? What
So-
happened?
I don't know.
Right. What happened?
do you
I don't know
mean?
what you're talking about, right? Nothing. So in my personal opinion, I think that this was probably one of the most underwhelming drafts, just like hype. I honestly like watched very little of it. I caught the Patriots picks just kind of like when they were on the clock and kind of on the social media train too. But that being said, I do think the Patriots made some solid moves that are going to help them for this year and maybe hopefully for the future. That being said, the first pick is Caleb Lomu from Utah, an offensive tackle, a pretty athletic guy. So very curious what they're going to do at the offensive line now that they picked him, and what they're going to do with that big old left tackle there. Can we still do that? I don't know. Is that allowed to? Yeah, still in the grace period.
Still the T-Rex.
Still a T-Rex. Yeah.
Caleb Wise Gamgee. He looks just like him.
So yeah, it was a good first pick, and then they addressed the edge with their number 2 overall pick, 55th pick with Gabe Akas. I think it's
Akis.
Akas, a silent J, Akas, edge out of Illinois. I like the pick. I think they need to address the edge with Landry was not what they expected out of him last year, and they lost Chase on too. So that was a good address for the edge. And then the third pick, which I'll touch on, and then I'll let Kadlick go in. Is the tight end out of Notre Dame. They said this was a really heavy tight end draft, so I'm kind of curious, Mike, on your take on him. Maybe if it was a good pick, if they could have waited maybe to get another potentially athletic or good tight ends. What's your overall take on the draft?
We'll start with those first 3. I like the Lomu pick. I like the fact that they packaged up a 4th-round pick to go up 3 spots to go get him. They identified A, a run on tackles that was happening, and B, a player in Lomu who was projected to go a little bit earlier than 28, falling basically into their lap, and said, let's not try and wait to 31 and get cute. Let's go grab them. I do have the same questions. Oh, hey, the Red Sox just scored. They're up 1-0. Maybe this is all working.
Wow.
And Story struck out, and then Mayer hit a single.
What do you
Chad
know?
Tracy,
Maybe we're on
let's
the up and
go.
up, boys. Sorry, I gotta turn my phone over. Lomu, I do have the same questions as to where he'll play, because he was a career left tackle at Utah. They have Will Campbell. Elliot Wolf said on Thursday night that Will Campbell will still be their left tackle. which I'm fine with for another year. I just hope they don't continue to try and shoehorn him in there just because, they think he's their left tackle. And I don't want to take away anything Campbell did last year. He had a solid rookie season. He fizzled out in the playoffs, partly due to injury. Give him another chance there. Lomu can maybe try and learn right tackle behind Morgan Moses for the year and then slide in that position in due time. So kind of curious that they drafted another career left tackle. There's maybe 2 players for one spot there. Whether they end up moving Campbell into guard, they play Lomu on the left, or they, transition Lomu into right tackle. We'll have to wait and see. But at the end of the day, I think it was smart to continue to try and protect Drake May, your number one asset on the team. Gabe Akis also traded up for him. So I liked the aggressiveness with those first 2 picks where, again, same thing. There was a run on edge players at that point, and they identified Akis as someone who was, again, like Elliot Wolf said, falling when they didn't think he should. They like the player. They met with the player. They go get him at 55. They need help there. You mentioned already, Josh, the fact that Harold Landry was not great last year. He dealt with a knee injury. He's on the wrong side of 30. And then they signed Draymond Jones, who I'm not huge on that signing. It felt like a similar signing to Landry 2 years ago, heading to the wrong side of 30. I'm not expecting too much out of him, and I think they need to continue building that edge room. And I think Akis was the guy to do it. And then Raritan, you're right. It was a deep tight end class. They need help there. Hunter Henry's heading into a contract year. They signed Julian Hill, but he's primarily a blocker. I think Raritan has a lot of upside, a lot of potential as a receiver. He didn't have a ton of production in 3 years with the Fighting Irish, so I'm curious, to see how they can sort of build him up. But I don't think he's necessarily a plug-and-play starter or even a backup, frankly. I think that's going to take a little bit of time. There were some other tight ends around that range that also started to go, but some of them, like Jacksonville and this, I can't even think their GM's name right now off the top of my head, but the kid who looks like he's like 15 years old, he thinks he's a super genius. He went and drafted someone, I don't even remember the guy's name. Not Heidenreich, that was the Navy kid.
Round?
The 3rd round before the Patriots. He drafted a tight. So the tight end board kind of fell oddly to me, and I ultimately like. Yeah, James Gladstone. Thank you. Yeah. The first 3 picks were all, right down the fairway to me. Thought they made sense. They filled 3 positions of need while also taking one of the best players available at each slot. Now, when we get into the 5th round, and I can let you set that up, like the Karan Prunty pick, the cornerback out of Wake Forest, I had never heard of the guy. And I didn't do as much draft coverage as some of my counterparts because I'm also focused on the entire NFL now at SI, but still trying to, stay on some Patriots coverage when I can and do it. And I never even knew who this guy was. So that
was
felt
an
like
Elliot Wolf pick.
Maybe, yeah.
Did Belichick come back for a year? Like, geez, what the hell's going on?
But I also,
Kyle Duggar.
You say the Wolf pick. I think most of the draft was Wolf picks because, I mean, stocking up the trenches, that's something they tried to do in Green Bay forever. You bring in, and even the undrafted free agents seem like Elliot Wolf signings as well with, 4 receivers that are all the exact same size. I mean, think of the Packers right now and the team they have right now. Like that's the same system that Wolf, comes from. So I know you said we're not going to get into the entirety of the class, but another offensive tackle, I like that pick. A developmental quarterback in Baron Morton. I like the pick. Really, the only qualms I have was, reaching for a 5th round cornerback that I had never heard of, and I don't think a lot of people did. Besides that, I think it was just a, solid B+ to B draft, I would say.
I think the draft, for me, they sort of drafted players where they had needs more than I think I've seen, where you really do hear teams sort of be like, we're just going to draft who's best available regardless of position. And in this case, they really drafted for positions they needed to fill. Big E and Gabe and Sam, just any of your thoughts from the draft overall, and we'll go a little bit around the horn here and get everybody's take. So whoever wants to go ahead. Big E, go ahead.
I want to start off with Baron Morton, and I think that this is an interesting pick because there was another quarterback that really had slid that was sitting out there with Garrett Nussmeier, who obviously there's LSU ties there with Will Campbell. Will Campbell's girlfriend is his sister. So I was a little curious about why they passed him on over. Did they think that might have been too much of a threat for Drake May? I feel like you want to get the best talent that you can in that room to compete. So just curious for your take on there, Mike.
Last season, going into this college football season, Nussmeier was one of my favorite players. He obviously struggled this season with LSU. He had the spinal cyst or whatever happened that kind of fucked up his entire abdomen. I mean, that's why he A, didn't play very well, and B, ended up sitting the rest of the season. So I think he got a shitty draw this year with LSU, frankly. But having said that, and I even, I heard some things on Nussmeier that weren't great. Just, maybe try to use the injury as a crux a bit too much to be like, oh, this is why I'm not playing well, etc. So that might have steered teams the wrong way. For the record, I watched his episode on Gruden's QB class, and I thought he seems like an upfront kid. He's a smart kid, understands the game, and has the pedigree of his father being the Saints offensive coordinator too. He's been around. He was a quarterback himself, and Doug Nussmeier. So as far as his fit with I definitely don't think he was going to be a threat to Drake May. I don't think anybody's a threat to Drake May. I think he really does have all the tools to be one of the best quarterbacks in this league. As soon as next season, and we saw it last year. So I don't know if it was more of a system fit with Morton, somebody who, they identified and met with or what have you. I don't think it necessarily had to do anything badly with Nussmeier as much as maybe they just liked Morton a little bit better. And recency bias, hurts us all. And I think Nussmeier's shitty 2025 season probably had a lot to do with his fall. And I think good on him, because I think I like the player in general. And I think now he gets to go learn from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And that's, the best thing. One of the best things you can have. If you fall past like the 5th round, you're going to be a backup.
Love it. Gabe, what are your thoughts on the draft? Any questions that you have for Mike on the draft?
Real quick, we spoke about Lomu a lot, but I've heard a lot of comps to Nate Solder. He's really long, lengthy, maybe not, that real tough guy that you would like to have at that position, but something that he could maybe develop as he goes along. I love that the Patriots went in the trenches with an edge guy and a tackle. There were some picks on the board that you could have really weaponized Drake May for this upcoming season. You had a chance at getting Omer Cooper Jr. from Indiana, a wide receiver out of Indiana, who I think has a lot of upside coming into the NFL. And then right before Gabe Yakis goes, you have Eli Stowers out of Iowa, tight end. Great receiving tight end. I'm not too sure about his blocking abilities, but having him and Henry out there would have been pretty tough to stop for other defenses in the league. But I think overall, like Mike said, it's like a B draft, maybe B plus, depending on where these guys end up in the future. But yeah, overall solid draft. I don't know if you guys saw any of the New York Jets first round picks, but they hit in the first round. I hate to say it as a Pats fan, but they had an excellent draft. They got David Bailey, an edge out of Texas Tech, with the 2nd pick overall, Kenyon Sadiq, a tight end out of Oregon, with the 16th pick, and Omar Cooper Jr., who I just highlighted a little bit, with the 30th pick. They really juiced up their overall roster and depth, and could potentially be a little bit of a sleeper in the coming years.
They have 3 picks next year in the first round as well from that trade. So they're not going away anytime soon.
Well, they're not.
Too bad they're still the Jets.
Yeah, they'll fuck it up somehow.
Don't have too much faith in them. Sammy K, your thoughts on the draft and what transpired?
You guys touched on anything. I'm just going to touch on Jackus real quick and his background. I don't know if you guys know, but he was a 2-time All-State wrestler down in Florida. So that's, when you have an athlete like that who's, really good with their hands physically, has that good footwork that he already has, it just kind of leads to success. So again, we got a fatty like we wanted, and then, we get an edge like Jackus, and I think it only bodes well for us. Gabe, you kind of alluded to a couple of wide receivers that we kind of passed up on. Again, it kind of makes me think that all those reports about A.J. Brown coming here are kind of...
A.J. Brown's a Patriot, just saying.
Yeah.
Well, the Eagles drafted Mekhi Lemon, so it's like... It's almost guaranteed.
Foregone.
Not only did they trade up, not only did they get him, they traded up, and they basically took him in front of Pittsburgh, which, man, they completely cucked him.
But that to your point, Gabe, that's probably why they didn't go after that like tight end from Iowa or the wide receiver, because they knew that they have A.J. Brown in their back pocket, so they're going to go for those needs. So I like it. I like what they did overall. So overall, good draft. I think like we can all agree B-ish area, maybe B plus, depending on how it shakes out. So if they can string 2 good drafts in a row, last year I think they had a really good draft. They hit on I think at least 3 picks, maybe even 4. So they can do that again this year. We're heading in the right direction. You know who's not heading in the right direction is Mr. Mike Vrabel, the coach of the Patriots. And Mike Kadlick, we have you on, and we would like your take on the situation. We know we don't have to go into specifics. We already we set the stage. We know what's going on, but what exactly is your take on the overall Vrabel sitch.
Yeah, it's obviously not great. I think we all know that. And the whole thing is obviously, taken on a life of its own. I mean, from the first story that comes out, both Vrabel and Diana Rossini put out their denials, trying to, holding hands.
Coupling in the night.
Trying to diffuse the fire. And, I thought Vrabel's answer to that when he said it was laughable. And then Andrew Callahan kind of held his feet to the fire last week and asked him about, he said he was trying to protect his family. I don't think he's wrong by saying it that way, but I think we all know he was trying to protect himself. He was trying to get shoo everything away, sweep it under the rug, and go from there. And whether he was going to be, truthful at that point or not, I'm not sure. Long story short, a lot of it, and we kind of avoided it. A lot of us on the beat and the guys who cover the team had avoided it for a while because it's not, or it wasn't at the time, a football issue. It was a personal issue. And I understand that there's layers to it with Rossini being an NFL reporter. So it's not just an alleged affair. It's an affair that has, conflict of interest involved. But at the end of the day, until we heard from Mike, what else are we going to say? It's a bad look. Everybody knows it's a bad look. So until he came out and addressed it and there was more to it, there was not much to say. He comes out, he speaks, he's spotted in the building. We saw him when we toured the facility a couple weeks ago, and he seemed like he was in relatively good spirits. And then the next shoe drops. The second Page Six story comes out. They were together 6 years ago. He's heading into counseling. He's going to miss the NFL draft. Then it becomes a football story, and then there's a lot more questions to ask. My take on it is that I still think any alleged extramarital, affairs that he's partaking in is still none of my business as a reporter. But, when you have to, take time away from the draft, when you are, this is his football program. It's not like it's him and Elliot Wolf or even him and Ryan Cowden or him and John Stryker. This is Mike Vrabel's football team, and everybody reports to him. So when he's not there and he isn't able to give his all, as has been reported by several people that he's been in the building and he hasn't been himself, it does become a football issue. Now, I also can't blame the guy for not being himself at work when he has a lot of, family issues going on. Like, I hear so much of, oh, well, this is a PR stunt and they're just trying to make him look good. And obviously, I'm sure the team and Vrabel are working together to, make the outside noise go down and make him and the team look the best they can. And that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. But behind closed doors, he has a wife. He has 2 kids. He made a really bad mistake. And I'm sure that he's genuinely trying to be a better man because of it. That's just my belief. I don't know it to be true, but that's just how I kind of have been able to read the tea leaves. So the other thing is, I think it's more so on the football side of things. I think it's probably smart for him to figure out his personal life and what's going on before he comes back and tries to lead the team, because it does look a little bit, it's contradictory when his big thing was accountability and we put the team first and we don't want to be a distraction and we want to make good choices off the field. And then this happens. And I think he knows that too. I'm sure he looked himself in the mirror and he said, shit, I mean, I do believe all those things, but I do kind of look like a hypocrite right now and I needed to go figure myself out. So as far as the draft goes on the weekend, I don't think Vrabel was in contact with the team like some people have believed. And B, I don't think it's all that serious on day 3 of the draft. I think they have their draft board set. I think things fall differently. And I think Stretch, Cowden, and Elliot Wolf know the types of players Vrabel wants, and they were able to bring in those guys because of it. If the 4 or 5 picks that they brought in end up sucking, people will look back and say, well, it's because of this. And that's just the nature of the business. And Vrabel made his bed. So that's kind of what I have to say on it. It's unfortunate. The whole thing sucks. It's awkward. I feel for him. I feel for his family. I feel for everybody involved. And until another shoe potentially drops, which, hopefully it doesn't, it's just kind of where we're at. And he has to deal with his family and demons and everything that he went through. And then there's the football side of it too.
We have a couple follow-up questions that we want to ask Mike. So, Gabe, take us with the first one, and then we'll rip through a couple of these fellas.
Yeah. Mike, have you been around the team at all since this has transpired or talked to any of the players at all and gotten, their side of the story or how they're feeling?
I have not been around the players. We were down in Foxborough. What's this? For Elliot Wolf's pre-draft press conference. And nobody asked questions of Vrabel. But what we ended up having was like an off-the-record media tour of their new facility, which is stunning, by the way. And I'm not just saying that to carry water for the team. Like, I think they listen to those NFLPA surveys and report cards, and they, unlike John Henry, Kraft put money back into the team and said, oh, we need to try and fix this a little bit because maybe I haven't given them. Yeah,
what up a little bit.
That should be the other thing, because I've also heard stories that the plane does in fact suck. But regardless, so we saw Vrabel that day. He rounded the corner just as soon as we got in front of his office, and he was like, "Oh, hey, how you guys doing? Good to see you." And this was like 2 days after the story broke, and it was kind of like he was trying to ignore it, and we were like, "Hey, man, like, you gonna say?" And he didn't say anything. And so he went in his office. We left the facility, and that was that. And then I was originally not going to go on Thursday afternoon, before the draft, and then he called this impromptu press conference, and I basically rushed down to Foxborough, and because I was assuming he was when they call a press conference like that, random down here within 25 minutes, I was like, "Oh shit, something's going down." So, my head's going, is he gonna resign? Is he gonna take a very serious, like, leave of absence, like, that he's gonna have to, like, name an interim, leader for the time? And he ended up just basically saying the same thing he had said to Reese, which was he's trying to find a balance and he's going into counseling and, what have you. And so hold on one second.
You could be getting breaking news
the
on this
beat.
as we're talking here.
Yeah, you never know.
It's just it's
Bath-
podcast stuff.
Hey, when the bat phone goes off, you got to answer the bat phone. As
Exactly.
Ari Gold would say. There's been some funny clips of Mike Vrabel and Ari Gold counseling clips, all timer. If you're an Entourage fan, there. Oh yeah.
But we were there. I went down there for his pre-draft press conference that he called, and was not able to talk to players anywhere either. So the only thing that I have heard multiple times is that he hasn't been the same in the building, that he gave the similar spiel to the players and basically said the same thing again on Wednesday after the second story broke. So I just wonder how much. I'll be curious to eventually hear from players, because none of them have spoken yet. Tomorrow, I believe, there's OTAs, and I think a couple players will speak, so we'll see if they have anything to say. But I have not necessarily heard a ton about what's going on inside the building, other than he hasn't been himself, and I think that's understandable given the situation.
Biggie, go ahead.
I know we talked a little bit about day 3 on the draft and Vrabel not being there and the impact that had. Do you think him not being there and them knowing that led to a little bit more of a freedom for them to sell some of those day 3 picks, those 4th rounders, in order to move up in round 1 and round 2? Because they knew that, hey, Mike's not going to be in the building here to make these picks. Let's use them now to get these players that we truly want, instead of throwing darts without basically the guy who's running the program, running the show.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if that was, I don't think that was necessarily their 1A approach, if you will. But when push comes to shove, and a player's falling, and you understand, those picks are going to be there, maybe it's just inherently in the back of their head, like, oh well, Sunday's going to be a little bit different or Saturday rather is going to be a little bit different of a day here. Now we might as well, like you said, go move up and go get those guys that we want to go get now. They spent again a 4th round pick on, I believe, both trade ups. One of them might have been a 5th. So they were definitely consolidating. Now that said, on Saturday they did also move back at one point and recoup another pick that day as well. So they kind of moved themselves around the board. So long story short, I don't know if that was their goal, but I also think that, when they're making those kind of moves, it's like, okay, we might as well go get this guy now, Vrabel approved, rather than somebody on Saturday and, have 5, 6, or however many picks they had on and not have his sort of leadership / stand.
Were you surprised that they didn't sell any of those picks for 2027 picks going into the next year? We've heard that 2027 is a much deeper, much more loaded draft than this year. Knowing that Vrabel also wasn't going to be there, do you punt on some of those picks and maybe say, hey, obviously we need players now, but let's wait for next year where that draft is a little bit more talent loaded and go from there? So I was just curious your thoughts on that too.
Yeah. I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't try and do more and push more towards 2027. Not necessarily because of Vrabel not being there, though. I think more so because of, the fact that I do think eventually Kayshon Boutte is going to end up being traded, because they are going to trade for AJ Brown. So they're going to want to try and regain more draft capital, whether that was last Saturday and, trading Boutte for a player in that draft, or eventually having more dart throws in 2027, so that when you do have to trade for AJ Brown, you can also get some stuff back for Kayshon Boutte, when you end up trading him. So not because of Vrabel, but I do think I'm kind of surprised they didn't add a little. Now they do still have 10 picks in next year's draft, which is a lot, and that's not including comp picks, which I don't know if unless they get any. I don't think they're big marquee free agents that they lost were only guys like Chason and Hawkins, so I don't know what they'll get back, but they still have enough dart throws, I think, next season to try and make the most out of it. So again, I don't think they necessarily had to do that because of Vrabel, but more so just because of the moving pieces that are going to be coming in the wide receiver.
Love it. Kraz, bring us home with wrapping us up here on the Vrabel situation.
So The New England Patriots, the football team, and the SoapNet soap opera series with multiple seasons and episodes. Do you see this potential issue kind of lingering into the season, or do you kind of see, depending upon what that other shoe is that drops, and if it does fit, if it kind of just ends where it's at, or if it kind of goes for?
Yeah, it's a good question and it's tough to say. I think sort of going back to him not being 100% himself and the same, bravado, hockey type of guy he is. Uh, I mean, that's kind of what brings players in. I think that's what players like about him is that he's, he talks the talk and looked like he walked the walk. And this kind of, takes a little bit away from that, in my opinion. When you want to be held accountable and, they have these family days and you portray yourself as a family man. And I'm not necessarily saying he's not. And this is the stuff that, it's hard to kind of get into, but when you want teams and your players to work hard and be accountable and also put family first, and then something like this happens, it just, right or wrong, it adds, layers to it and kind of makes you look. I don't want to use the word fraud because again, I think Mike is, I think Mike has the right intentions. I think he made a really bad mistake here and has to, eat crow for it. I just do wonder if he'll be able to go back to his old self. Like I said, like this, he's a real person. He's got a real family. He hurt real people. There's layers to it that people just think he's Mike Vrabel, the football coach, but he's not. And so when he has to try and carry himself and get guys going and be this guy who wants players to hold themselves accountable and put the team first and not be a distraction, you can't be that distraction. And he has been, and he's going to have to apologize for it, and he's going to be better for it. So as far as other shoes to drop, that's impossible to say, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But, if another one drops and it gets really ugly, then, things could change. But if this is it and it was, what we think it is, which is an alleged, 6 or 7 year affair with an NFL reporter, and he has to fix his family for it and, has to own up to it in front of his team and change things, then it's really going to be up to the team and the players whether they can still sort of be by his vision or if they think of him a little bit differently. And he looks, I don't know, it's hard to say, but I do think that there is definitely he has to make up for it for his family. And I think he also has to make up for it for the team as well, based on how he wanted them to carry themselves all last year.
I think you're going to know kind of soon into the season and how things are going. And, once training camp is underway and the team starts to gel and go through those exercises, if you will, I think you'll start to see, and certainly as games start, you'll see if they're responding to his coaching and the changes that they might need to make throughout the course of the season. The New England Patriots are the ultimate soap opera, going all the way back.
They
as we
cannot
talked about.
stay away from it.
That's what I said.
No,
There's
insane.
multiple seasons. Each season's
we're
got
going
about
on
10
season,
to 15
this
episodes.
is, season 25, and it started back with Belichick resigning on a napkin, and we've had twists and turns and lots of things happen since then. So
Quite
Mike,
a few notable
Pink bag of
things.
drugs.
that's not even like, that's like chapter
Spygate,
38, like a
Deflategate.
subplot.
Barely
comparatively.
registered.
That's
Yeah,
the
I
tip
mean,
of the iceberg. I mean,
yeah.
there's
We
there's
could go
felonies and all.
in the summertime. We'll have
Subplots.
to when the talks are, when there's not as
With
much
that.
going on, we'll have to dive
Rank the
into it
sagas.
and get into
Wow,
it.
seriously, you could.
Mike, want to leave on this? We there's been some changes across the radio waves in Boston, and we were
Yeah.
talking about that a little bit earlier. So I want to get your take on that, and then we'll let you out of here and want to talk about some of the new stuff that you have going on. But your thoughts on what's going on at WEEI?
Yeah, it's man. I mean, I was
You just want to stop there?
yeah, pretty much. I was in, look, Fitzy and Handy, those are my boys. They got the axe 2 years to the date after I did from that place. Whatever it is at Odyssey or EI, they love to lay people off the day before the NFL draft. So it's a legacy radio station that was incredible for a long time. And I think ultimately what, with the Sports Hub coming in and kind of owning the airwaves over the last 10, 15 plus years, like they're trying their hardest to, compete, and it's never going to get there. And I feel for the people there who, like, a lot of the people at WEI are great human beings. They work hard. They want to do good in this industry. And the Sports Hub has just become a powerhouse that's impossible to go up against. And so Rich, who is now on the afternoons, I am curious to see how that goes. I think it's impossible to go up against guys like Felger and Maz. I really do. They've become an absolute juggernaut in this space. And I feel for people good people having to lose their jobs for bad decisions that come from the top down. And I don't think that's in a vacuum just starting last week. I think that's from years and years and years ago that's kind of trickled down and turned into this. So it is
interesting,
unfortunate.
Mike. It's interesting. There's some parallels there between WEI and the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, right.
Things starting at the top and those people not being held accountable and people below them, paying the price.
Exactly. And so, I'll leave it at that because like I said, I like a lot of people there. I like a lot of the people I've worked with in the past. And it's I don't want to say it's nobody's fault, but there's just been this, again, a trickle down effect for a long time that's put them in the spot that they're at, and they're continuing to, I think, just try and play catch up and literally just throw shit against the wall and see what sticks. And I can't necessarily fault them for that either, because it's just been a long time coming in the last X amount of years for them. So it's tough. Again, I root for anybody who's trying to make it in sports media because it's freaking hard. Even, for you guys trying to do, a podcast, like sometimes it sucks and you got to just keep plugging. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. And that's, I feel for Andy and Fitzy, who I worked with for a couple years there, and good people, just like a lot of people are over there and in this space.
Absolutely. Definitely feel for Fitzy and Andy, and agree with a lot of what you said there. We'll dive in a little bit later in the episode on the new show that they have going on and comment on that. Mike, want to get you out of here on this. Anything that you want to plug, anything that you have going on, where can the fine followers and listeners of the show find you across the social media sphere and everything you have going on?
Sure. You can follow along on Twitter at Mike Kadlick, writing about NFL over at sportsillustratedsi.com. So you can read everything I got over there. And then the Patriots Daily podcast as well on CLNS with Taylor Kiles. We do that mostly every day. That's why we call it Patriots Daily. We try and get some stuff up, anything that's happened around Patriots world. So you can listen in there and on Patriots Press Pass on YouTube as well. So this is always fun, boys. Thank you for having me. And hopefully the next time we do this, maybe the Patriots, or the Red Sox rather, have a winning record in our.
We'll check in with you summertime as the Patriots season gets underway. So that'll be a good time to reconnect and talk and see where the Red Sox stand. Mike, appreciate your time as always. Everyone go make sure you're following Mike and everything he's doing. We'll see you soon, Mike. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks again, Mike.
Hey, good seeing you, Mike. Have a good night.
All right. That's
Wow.
Mike Kadlick, one of the best. One of our favorite guests to have on the show, and we've gone deep into the Red Sox and Patriots this evening, which is absolutely fucking crazy because the two teams that are in the playoffs we're almost an hour into the show and haven't said a word about yet. So it's time to lay down the parquet, Big E, and talk about the Celtics, who return home from Philadelphia with a 3-1 series lead, looking to wrap things up tomorrow night. Give us the latest on what happened in the city of brotherly love.
Yeah, we're going to be quick here, which is crazy that we're going to be quick about the two teams that are in the playoffs here, but what a crazy week in Boston sports. But I think going back to last week's episode, whether it was the episode we put out on Tuesday or Friday last week, the messaging was we're not worried. And the Celtics completely backed up our faith in them by going through a game 3 that kind of was a little bit of a seesaw back and forth with Philadelphia. Philadelphia really kind of within the game until really the last 5 minutes of the game, where Tatum and Peyton Pritchard hit some very large shots down the stretch to kind of separate, make it a 2-point game, get a little bit of cojones there. And, it was just a great game. I think the big thing about that game, and we'll touch a little bit on this in a little bit, was it was on Prime and just maybe not the best viewing experience. So we'll touch on that here in a little bit later. But I want to talk a little bit more about Game 4, because to me, Game 4 was the game that was the most impactful game in the series. And there's a couple reasons why. You had Joel Embiid, who's making his return. So he had been out with an emergency appendectomy that happened about 2 weeks ago, came in, he put up some decent offensive numbers. But I think the big thing that I noticed that throughout this game, he was a minus 23, and he just completely slows down their offense. Maxey, he had an okay showing. He had 22 points, I think about 50% shooting. But VJ Edgecombe, most of the shots that he had throughout the series went completely to Embiid. And I don't know if that's a good thing for this for that team going forwards. The other thing that was also great about this one, too, is I had texted you guys all yesterday saying, hey, if the bench goes off for 50 plus points, Celtics are going to win this game easily. Not only did the Celtics bench go off for 50 plus points, but Peyton Pritchard had one of the best games of his life for the playoffs. He had 32 points, which is the second most points off the bench in the playoffs in the Celtics all time, only behind Kevin McHale, who had 34 points. So just in general, he had an amazing game and really did good. One thing I want to ask you guys is, what do you guys think about Embiid's return? Do you think that hurt the 76ers more than it helped? And would just love to kind of get your thoughts here on this. And do you think the Celtics will close on out in Game 5 on Tuesday?
I personally don't think it really mattered. And I mean, Embiid, he took a lot of shots and he kind of clogged up their game. But I think whether he's back or not, I think it's still going to be the same, gentleman's sweep type of situation in this series. But I get your question, Eric. Like he definitely slowed down the game. Actually, was a shell of himself. I don't know if that was because of Embiid or whatnot. And then Edgecombe also couldn't hit anything. So I feel like maybe Embiid coming back did really slow down the Sixers offense. But at the end of the day, it was still going to be a gentleman's sweep, in my opinion.
Gabe, Sammy,
Yeah.
your thoughts on the series?
This series is definitely over. Philly has no chance. Uncle Lee's waving the white flag. Embiid's return definitely hurts the 76ers, in my opinion. It slows them out. They were playing actually really well without him. I thought the speed in which they were playing and getting up and down the court was really impressive. And they have some players that like Kelly Oubre, and we talk about Andre Drummond, and they just have some agitators on that team that you kind of have to force. Embiid being back forces you to put them on the bench more, and it just changes the game plan. And with that being said, it's just the Philadelphia stands no chance. I think, what is it, either on to Atlanta or the Knicks at this point is kind of where I'm thinking.
Yeah.
To be determined. Sammy K, bring us home your thoughts on the series or anything NBA-wise for that matter.
You guys kind of wrapped everything up for the most part, hit all the nails on the head. I mean, the team's kind of complete. Jason Tatum, like you guys said, he never went away. He was kind of there to begin with. Vucevic is starting to look like he knows where he is and what he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
It's coming slow. Like I said, it's he's going to win us a game at some point down the road. But this team just, with the emergence of Nema Keita and...
Can I talk about Nemus for a second?
Yeah, go for it.
That's something I wanted to bring up, was that he's been not a liability, but he needs to really get his fouls in check, because he's been playing, I think, an average of 13 minutes a game right now for the
Against
first 4
bums
games.
for centers.
Yeah, exactly. And you just can't have that. He kind of is a little bit flaily with his fouls too. So I don't know if that can be worked on this playoffs, but moving down the line, even for the future years, he has to work on that if he wants to become a good center in this league.
I think it certainly can be something they can work on throughout this playoffs. I think it really is going to be dependent on the matchups and who he's playing against and how are they for defenders. So, for example, if he's going to go up against Mitchell Robinson, you're not going to have to worry about fouls. And Mitchell Robinson is the center on the New York Knicks. He's atrocious, right? And if you foul him, it's actually a good thing because he's a terrible free throw shooter.
Same with Drummond, though.
So I think, sure. But I think it really is going to be very dependent on the matchup. I think the thing about Keita being in foul trouble that I think has been interesting to me is Luka Garza has come in and played great effectively in whatever minutes he's getting. Candidly, I think he should be getting more minutes than Vucevic. And I don't think I'm in the minority here, especially among the group. But obviously, you got to give Vuce some time to get back into form. I just don't want to do it at the expense of Garza, because I think Garza is the ultimate hustle player and just makes the right play continually.
And I just really wanted to touch on just the presence of both Hugo Gonzalez and also my guy Jordan Walsh over there doing a lockdown job on Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe, and that's just really it's good to see, because what we're throwing at them is they're getting Jordan Walsh, they're getting Gonzalez, they're getting Derek White, they're getting Jaylen Brown, they're getting on a switch, they're getting Tatum on a switch. They're seeing so many different looks, and that's really what's going to propel us moving forward. Not to say that the 76ers are better than the Knicks, but I mean, when you think about it, and I know that a lot of the guys are older, but you have Paul George, you have a lot of these guys that have been there and done that. Kyle Lowry on the bench, who we really haven't seen that much. Obviously, they've all lost a step. But when you like think about it from like a paper point of view, I mean, those guys scare me more than what the Knicks kind of have to offer. The Knicks kind of go off of energy, whereas the guys that are on the 76ers have kind of been there and done that, and they're just kind of falling flat right now.
Can we stop talking about the Knicks, though? Because, I don't necessarily think that the Knicks are necessarily going to be the team that the Celtics play in the next round. That is a 2-2 series, and Atlanta is giving it to the Knicks right now. So I don't necessarily want to just say, hey, we're going to play the Knicks. I think that's what we all want because I think it's the best series and it's the best for the NBA. But I also just want to just say, don't count out the Hawks.
Does
No,
it
you
go 7
can't.
games?
You can't count
Could.
out Atlanta. I think this first round of the NBA playoffs has actually been much better than anybody might have anticipated. I think a lot of folks just thought that the higher seeded teams were going to run away with series, and that hasn't been the case other than the Celtics here in Oklahoma City. But you have the Pistons and the Magic that are locked up, and Orlando's up 2-1. The Timberwolves and Nuggets series has been very interesting to me. I actually think if Minnesota wins that series, being up 3-1, that's a big, big win for the Celtics potentially if they're going to go to the finals. I think Denver is an awful matchup. We always seem to
I
struggle
agree.
with them.
And
So
with the injuries in Minnesota too, that's
so
It's a
you-
perfect recipe,
if they
and
can
that's
take
actually
out
on
Denver,
tonight at
it's huge.
10:30.
Yeah.
Right. So that's big. And then tomorrow you have that Knicks series we just chimed in on that
Jokic
somebody
playing?
will go up 3-2. The
Jokic is
Celtics
playing.
will try and
Yes,
wrap
okay.
things up as well as the
I just
Spurs.
didn't
So
know if something happened.
pretty solid round one of the NBA playoffs overall. Celtics will try and bring it home in a gentleman's sweep tomorrow. The Bruins, Gabe, will look to not get gentleman's sweep tomorrow out in Buffalo. An ugly 2 games at the TD Garden as they came home 1-1 and go back to Buffalo down 3-1, take it away on what was a gross week for the Bees.
Yeah, unfortunately, didn't go our way, boys. As I think the term being used is embarrassment, and it was embarrassing the past 2 games that they played on home ice. This Bruins team is they were known all season to defend home ice and play really well, and to lose a game 6-1 and in a really, kind of must win situation, not must win, but close. It just goes to show like it's just not their year. They're still kind of in this rebuilding phase. Like they don't really know who the leader is. They have a coach that's a rookie, his first year as a coach. And I really do think Marco Sturm is getting out coached by Lindy Ruff here. Lindy Ruff putting in Alex Lyons at goaltender was a huge momentum shift for the Sabres, and they're riding that high. I mean, he's speaking about Lions. He's 2-0 with a .89 goals against average and a .964 save percentage. He's completely shut down the Bruins offense. And, then you have Marco Stern making moves like putting Lucas Reichel in instead of James Higgins. He goes -2 on the night, Reichel that is. And it's just like, he's not, doesn't seem like Marco Sturm is able to push the right buttons right now at the right time, which is okay. Again, like as much as like this has been disappointing and, these games have been really not great to watch. I think, they're still trying to build towards something here. And, obviously, again, this is not their season. They're probably going to lose in Buffalo tomorrow and that will be that. But again, the future is at least a little brighter than we thought it would be at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have some thoughts here. I think, just in general, the Bruins were a roller coaster. We talked about that all year long. It was a constant, up and down. And I think that constant up and down led to pretty much the entire month of March and April being playoff games, right? Every single game had an impact. And I wonder, are they feeling the effects of basically operating in that kind of mentality now that they actually are in the playoffs, that it's kind of like that went on a little bit too long for them and now they're feeling the effects. So I would love to get your thoughts on that, Gabe.
Absolutely. Like you said, every game, the past couple months have been really grinded out games and they needed the points. And you can tell it's wearing it on them now. I'm not sure. Pasta might be a little bit banged up. He's not really giving you much. The best players on your team right now are the grinders. They're Kasterlik, they're Janot, they're Corrali. Like those are the guys that are actually giving you production and positive minutes on ice. And when that's happening, you're not having a great playoff series. Like, you need your other guys to step up, and I think they've just pooped out, and it's pretty evident as we saw yesterday.
J-Matt, I know
Yeah.
you always have some strong Bruins takes.
He does. He
Yeah, I
does.
mean, all year. I mean, you guys know what my take was. I was harped on them all year. I wasn't giving them anything, and then the last 4 weeks, I took the fucking bait like a dumbass loser. Like, I don't know what the hell happened. I'm like, they're gonna turn on the playoffs. They're gonna do something. They're gonna be good. They're a grinding team. Like, no one wants to play against them. Like, they're gonna hit. They're gonna score. They did maybe one of those things, and that was hit in one of these games. They really haven't scored at all. I mean, you kind of have to put the puck in the net, guys, and you really have to defend in front of your own goalie. And I feel bad for Swayman, honestly. Like, I totally agree with him chirping at the bench. I kind of wish that he went up and down the fucking ice and like chirped at all of them before he went off the bench. But obviously, that would have been a bad look. But like, I kind of wish he did because they deserved it. So
That would have been a baller move. I don't know if that would have been a bad look. I think it would have been baller.
Like, the team really deserved that, and Marco Sturm for that. Like, the whole coach, everyone. Like, I just this wasn't a great year for the Bruins, like, as what we want, because I'm looking at the standings and they had like the 10th best record in the league. Like, that's not they developed a couple of guys. Yes, they developed Fraser Mitten and Hustadinov, but like, really, what else did they develop? They don't have any good defensemen. Charlie McAvoy, I'm kind of over that fucking guy. Like, I think he's pretty soft, honestly. I think he kind of plays a persona, but I don't think in big games, I don't think he's willing to put it on the line and be that guy. I truly don't. I'm sorry. You guys might have a different opinion, but I just don't see it. I think he's a tough guy. Like, I think he plays through injuries, but I think when the pressure is really on, I just don't see it. And that goes for Pasternak too. Like, you got to call him out. Like, what the fuck are we doing? -5 in the game the other night and like in the series. Like, I just can't believe like what I'm seeing. Like, turnover after turnover. Just it's really not great. And I don't know where they're gonna go, because they're gonna again get the fucking 20th pick, and we're gonna get another middling guy. And it's just like, I don't know. I'm this team is really, really pissing me off, and we'll see really what they're about tomorrow. We'll really see what they are. If they want to fight and kind of win us back and show a little bit of grit, we'll see what they're gonna do tomorrow night. It'll show a lot about the team and the coach.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, I think talking about the coach, the decisions that he made for game 4 and what he did with the lineup was truly an abomination. The fact that he sat Hagens and had Harris in the lineup, who's only played 8 games all season. You have Yoki Haru, who's just riding the pine the whole time. And there was one other guy that was Lowry. Taking Lowry out of the lineup was fucking stupid. You needed a puck moving defenseman, as Josh just mentioned about Charlie McAvoy. The thing that boggles my mind about McAvoy is you see him on Team USA playing extremely well in high pressure games, and then in the NHL and with the Bruins, he just shits. The pass that he made to clear the zone on that first goal yesterday was absolutely horrendous.
He needs to be picked up by other players, and he's not. He doesn't have that guy.
Right.
He doesn't have that other person on the
He doesn't
USA.
have Zdeno Chara playing on the other side of him.
Exactly.
That's part of the problem. And it does go back. The Bruins problems were somewhat masked by let's admit, they did have a nice stretch in March to get to where they're at and get into the playoffs. But the things that transpired over the course of the season that we had concerns about did not just evaporate. I do agree. Tomorrow's a big test. Can they go to Buffalo and pull one out and be able to get back to the Garden and maybe, show some grit and balls? And more importantly, can you get this back here for game 6 and give your fans something to be happy about in a game 6 and have a team? Because I also the Garden has just been a fucking church the past 2 games for them, because once you get behind, and you know how it goes, if you're in a 1-1 playoff game at the Garden with the Bruins playing, you feel like your stomach is in your throat and it's going to come out any second, and it did in game 3. I do hope that they can go there tomorrow night and be able to take out a win. Gabe, any final thoughts? Or Sammy, if you have any thoughts on the Bruins? I know puck ain't really up your alley, so that's okay if you don't.
You guys hit everything.
All right, Gabe, any final thoughts here on the Bruins as we head into game 5 tomorrow, trying to bring it back to the Garden?
Nothing too crazy. I think your points are all extremely valid, and it's been I think we got a little bit fooled about this matchup with the Sabres. One thing that we haven't touched on is how good the Sabres are, and they're playing like it, and for that, good for them. I think for us, we thought our physicality would have played more of a role in this series, but it really hasn't seemed to affect the Sabres as much as we'd want it to. So, let's get one tomorrow, and anything's possible, but it just kind of feels like it's sliding in the wrong direction right.
Yeah, I think my last thought here, and like we don't have to dive into this today. This is more for us to think about for next week. So I just want to pose it now. But did the Bruins really do themselves any favors by holding on to these players that they could have sold off and maybe getting some extra draft picks around the margins? We knew that they weren't going to be contending for a cup this year. So was getting into the playoffs really in their best interest? So no one needs to respond to this today. We'll respond once the season is over. Let's go Bees, I guess.
I think to quickly respond to you, and then we'll move on. Any sort of playoff experience, especially for a young team where you're trying to develop guys, is good. And hopefully they can learn from it if tomorrow does end up being the end. I don't know if any of us, all we wanted was for them to make the playoffs this year and try and make some noise. And Gabe's probably right as he said it. This is probably their ceiling is getting into the playoffs and where they're at now. So if tomorrow is it, I do consider it a successful season from that standpoint, but there is a lot of work to do as well. We're going to keep working here on the pod. We're going to keep things moving here. Big E, you know what time it is.
Yeah, it's my favorite time. It's the time that we talk about the things that we don't like, the things that are smelly, the things that make us go, yeah, oh, get out of here, gross. And then there are the things that are absolutely amazing. They're stupendous. They make you want to get up and jump from the rooftops and say, yeah. I got a yeah-oh. I'm going to kick it off here before I throw it out to you guys. First one I got to go with is, we talked a little bit about this when we were talking about the Celtics, but they were on Prime Friday night and they got like the Z Crew. And those announcers were the worst announcers I've ever heard for any sporting event of all time. They literally, like, when players would go to the line and they would hit 2 free throws, they would go, like a gentleman. And like Andre Drummond hit a 3 and it had the same exact response as like when Mullins hit that shot, against
for UConn
against Duke. And it was like, my God, like, keep it in your pants. This is not the appropriate time for a celebration like that. It was one of the worst experiences I've had watching a game. Definitely a great time to mute your TV and throw on Grandy and Max.
They literally go, when brown and white work together, it's tan. I was like, what the hell is going on? It's
That's
crazy.
Fucking super racist.
Cringe.
That the Gabe Plotkin, those are Gabe Plotkin's announcers for the Charlotte Hornets.
I don't like it. Cousin
That's
Gabe,
the home announcers.
Good. I think that they just got exposed. Cousin Gabe.
Was that the same guy that went wild when JT hit that 3 to kind of, he was like coming in his pants?
He literally said before
it sounds like a WWE matchup.
For real. But before he did the how diddly do, it was like he literally said he questioned Tatum like taking the 3. He was like, what? Like the fact that he was taking the 3 was so egregious, and they were all up Philly's asshole the entire game. Yeah, Cousin Gabe, shitty fucking announcers, my cousin. I'm sorry.
Get rid of them.
They were terrible.
Awesome.
Terrible. We call it as it is on the podcast. You can be family, I'll tell you. No good.
Penalty box. Throw those 2 announcers in the penalty box.
They're going in the penalty box. 5-minute major.
5-minute major for being unbearable on the airwaves. Talking about unbearable on the airwaves, let's get into another because I've wound up the Jack in the Box for our friends over at WEEI, and obviously had some strong takes, and it's announced today that Rich Schertenlieb and Ted Johnson reunite on the airwaves after the failed show they had on WZLX. And the ever incompetent Ken Laird joins the show, producer over the last 10 years and now on the airwaves. Listen, I've said my piece on WEEI, my personal feelings. It also does not reflect the feelings of everybody else on this show. I've made that clear many times. However, what I don't understand is what Kadlick said is this revolving door of hosts that they've had, not just in the 2 to 6 slot, but really anything other than the Greg Hill show. And other than Greg Hill, that entire show has turned over several times as well. And I just don't understand how you can compete in this market when you're constantly changing the narrative and the people who are on these shows. and you get to a point of people potentially listening, and then you just pull the rug out from under it. And obviously this has been in the works for quite some time. If you're bringing back a guy like Rich to be on the airwaves, they absolutely did Fitzy and Andy Harper dirty. And I think that goes back to the management and the people that are involved there, that they're just making decisions based on contracts or based on, what they hope is going to stick, as Mike said, sort of throwing the pasta at the wall method. And I just think I don't understand the move. I don't understand WEEI, how they were where they were and how they've gotten to where they've gotten. And I don't think we're the only one, or I'm not the only one that feels this way. If you go onto Twitter or social media, you look at some of the comments of the fact that this show has been brought back, it's truly unbelievable in many ways. So I don't know if any of you fellas have any comments on that, or if you want to leave it as is. Up to you.
Nope. No comments.
Nope. They're a dying station. Leave it at that.
Just
all
like
right. Well, let's get more positive then. Let's get into the let's get into the oh yes. I'll give a softball one here. I was in Savannah, Georgia over the weekend with the missus, had a great time. And I will say this, gentlemen, I went to a restaurant called the Common Restaurant. Life-changing meal.
It wasn't
unbelievable. Top 5 meal of all time. Braised short.
It was not a common meal.
It was braised short rib with this collard green situation and a piece of fried cornbread. And boy, we had a 6 to midnight situation going on. The missus had some sort of mahi pineapple fried rice situation. That was unbelievable. So Common Restaurant in Savannah, Georgia, if you're ever there, big oh yeah, highly, highly recommend. Great spot there. Wanted to give them a shout out. We'll keep it moving. Who's got the next oh yeah on some NBA news?
Yeah, Rookie of the Year, Maine native and soon to be Boston Celtic Cooper Flag just won Rookie of the Year about an hour ago. I guess they call it the Wilt Chamberlain Trophy now, so congratulations to him for that. Hopefully we'll see him in a green jersey soon. Because the Mavs
it's up to his mom. If it's up to his mom, he'll be in that green jersey someday.
Dude, the Mavs trade away all their players. So
yeah, I was gonna say, if there's one team that you want him to be on, it's the Mavs.
There's always
let's go JT, Cooper Flag, and Jaylen Brown.
Barely beating out the nipple.
Barely beating out the nipple. Con Knipple, the nipple.
Con Knipple.
No, I know. I just double take. Did I hear that?
This next one.
You did hear this one as well. So it goes to the Oakland Raiders and them signing Kenzei Matsuzawa, also known as the Tokyo Toe.
Any relation to Red Panda?
Nipples and Tokyo Toes?
The Tokyo Toe. I think that's one of the best nicknames you could ever have. So apparently this guy is a YouTube
Some people
kicker.
Call it xenophobic.
Is he a football player?
Who's been out there kicking field goals for a long time, and the Raiders have signed him. So that is why he has the nickname, the Tokyo Toe. I look forward to seeing him put a few balls through the uprights for the Raiders. And
hopefully not soon to be named the Tokyo Drift.
No.
If he starts sailing them to the left or the right, he's going to be known as Tokyo Drift.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
That's clip that one and put it to the side because.
And then that one song from Tokyo Drift.
As soon as September comes around and he misses one, Tokyo Drift is going to start coming out. We're going to start playing all the Fast and Furious songs from Tokyo Drift.
I was
it's going to be
just
fantastic.
doing it.
Yeah,
well, I know.
I heard you, Cross.
You know what is coming Fast and Furious? That was awesome. That was actually pretty good.
It was. All right.
The World Cup and Eric, what'd you throw in here about the World Cup?
Yeah, I threw in here. And so there have been a lot of talk that there was going to be no tailgating at Gillette. They have reversed course and they have said tailgating is back at Gillette for World Cup games. So everything is right in the universe.
First off, I need to say something about that because it wasn't a World Cup game. It was a World Cup qualifier. And I'm pretty sure it was, I got to look it up, but I'm pretty sure it was Paraguay that Brazil played. And it was one of the most, and I've been to New England Patriots like tailgates. And this tailgate between Brazil and Paraguay, I believe, was one of the most wild things I've ever. Dude, there were like multiple pigs on like roast just going. It was insane. It was absolutely wild.
Right.
It was
community
a party the whole entire time. Yeah,
I'm thrilled that they're allowing tailgating to happen at Gillette, but your train ticket will still cost you $80 and parking will be more probably as well. So good luck getting there. But no, great, very, very good move to allow for the tailgating. It absolutely needs to be part of the experience. So we rightfully assigning an oh yeah.
Is that the Patriots? Is that the Patriots brain trust trying to take away some heat from one Mr. Mike Vrabel? by announcing this now?
No.
No,
I
I'm
don't
kidding.
think
They're
that had
just
anything
making
to
it,
do with
We
right?
heard
that.
our
I think
pod and
I'm
us
kidding.
bitching about it
I'm
last
kidding. I'm
episode.
kidding.
FIFA's in the driver's
him
seat for all
alone.
that sort of stuff.
Hey, you know who else is in the driver's seat? We are, because we're on the pike.
All right, let's take it home. Let's park the car, starting with the Celtics and what's going on this week, Big E, and as they try to wrap things up.
We are going to try and wrap things up on Tuesday, the 28th, with a 7 p.m. game against on ESPN. The Game 6, if necessary, will be
don't even.
Will be Thursday, and we won't go further than that. So
yeah,
Hopefully. Well, on the other side of the coin,
Knock
we
on
do
wood.
hope for a couple of extension of this series. Gabe, what are we looking at this week?
So we've got a must-win tomorrow at Buffalo, 7:30 on TNT. Should be a good game. Game 6 pending Friday. Game 7 Sunday. I would love to see the Bruins on a Sunday afternoon game fighting for the second round of the playoffs. That'd be nice.
let's be honest, the Bruins are going on Isaiah Thomas tomorrow, right? You know, they're not the prime show in town.
They are definitely on the little guy for sure. Sammy K, what's up with the Sox this week?
All right, we're up 4-0 with Toronto right now. It's a Monday. Tomorrow we got another one with Toronto, then one more. So 2 more with Toronto, 3 with Houston, and 3 with Detroit when we start filming again. I'm really looking at the 3 with Houston as a kind of litmus test parameter to see if this is like one of those kind of like, because that always happens whenever a manager gets fired, a team always goes on a little streak. I want to see how long they can run a streak out and see if it's just one of those things or if the team's actually making a turn. So
start winning series.
Go win a couple series and
They
and
did
get
it.
them at
They
a
just
time.
won one.
Right.
String them
So
together.
Get the fan base back involved. If you win tonight, you have your first 3-game winning streak of the season. You know, can they get back to 500 by Memorial Day and be able to be there? If you recall last year, that's pretty much they were at 500 through the month of June for the most part. So baseball season too long to count them out quite now. We talked about the whole saga that occurred over the weekend, and maybe that does light a fire under their ass. I will say I do like what Tracy has done to the lineup and shaking things up there,
moving people around already
on the bases. So we'll see if that helps this team as we move forward. J-Matt, anything in NFL land, anything going on there?
Well, one final nugget was Mike Kadlick alluded that tomorrow, Tuesday, is going to be the first day of OTAs at Gillette Stadium. So maybe we'll get some player media on the Vrabel situation. So keep your ears out this week for that.
Ears to the ground for sure. I do want to comment on this as we wrap things up. If you did see the video that took off for us this week and you gave us a follow or you interacted with it in any way, shape, or form, we greatly appreciate it. If you're new to the show and you've listened to this point, we appreciate it immensely. Give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe to things. We've been doing it for almost 2 years. We're 5 friends that have been talking sports forever and took our text thread to the podcast, and here we are 80-something episodes in, still doing it. So we appreciate all the interactions and the support. It means a lot to us. We're doing it for the love of the game, and we'll continue to do it for the love of the game. A big shout out to Mike Kadlick for joining us, one of our favorite guests. Always great to have him on. Fellas, always great to have a fully loaded show at Bros as well. And to all the listeners, thank you for tuning in and for all the support throughout the course of the week. That will do it for the Sports Bros this evening, near, far, wherever you are. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Good night.
See y'all.
Later.